Charlie Pryde.
And I'm Jennifer Pryde. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Pride of the Villages.
Well, today we're going to be on the road again. We're heading west to the Gulf Coast, to the area of Homosassa Springs and Crystal River. We're going to be visiting a state wildlife park, and then we're going to go to a gem of a restaurant that I've been told about for lunch. So come along to join us. The Ellie Schiller Homosassa Springs Wildlife State Park is located about an hour's drive from the villages in Homosassa on the Gulf Coast. There are two parking areas to access the park. One is directly off Highway 98 and is adjacent to the Visitor Center. Easily distinguishable from the road is this park sign, as well as a giant manatee, but do not expect Jennifer to be standing next to it as in this picture. As you enter the lot, you will notice the award sign for Florida state parks. In fact, there are 175 award-winning state parks in Florida, and some very nice ones within an hour's drive of the villages. The park is open from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. This parking lot also gives access for bird watchers exploring the Pepper Creek Trail.
After parking, as you walk towards the Visitor Center, notice the beautiful mural painted by renowned marine wildlife artist Robert Weiland. This was a design he worked on with Guy Harvey. Upon entering the Visitor Center, you will see numerous billboards, including history of the park and rotational displays. As you walk to the end of the building, you will notice the manatee going to the Jimmy Buffett concert and the sign for transportation to the park. Unfortunately, the boat transportation is not running as they are building new docks. Therefore, walk along past the huge gator head and you will see the tram station. It is about a 5-minute tram ride to the park entrance.
Now, if you would like to bypass the Visitor Center, you can go directly to the park entrance. That is located off of Fishbowl Road and has a parking lot, although a lot smaller one than at the Visitor Center. Here you will see some of the old tourist signs from years past. Upon crossing Fishbowl Drive, you will enter the building where you will pay the park entrance fee. It is $13 for adults. Children ages 6 to 12 is $3. 5 and under is free. The focus of the park is on wildlife native to Florida, with a few exceptions which will become obvious. Most of the animals on display cannot be returned to the wild, as they will not survive due to they have broken wings in the case of birds, or they may have been domesticated in the case of some of the mammals.
Well, manatees are the star attraction of the park, as you see mention of them everywhere, but summer's not the optimal time for them in the fresh spring. During the warm months, they are out in the river and the Gulf, feeding and doing whatever manatees do. The time to see them is in the cold months, when they come into the spring for the 72-degree water to stay warm. So if seeing manatees is your goal, mid-November through March is the best time to visit the park. However, there were a couple manatees present in the spring head, in addition to 2 who were recovering from exposure to red tide, which parts of Florida is currently experiencing.
Likewise, the underwater observatory is best visited in the winter, as numerous species of fish congregate at the springhead for the warmer water. This will include snook, redfish, mangrove snapper, sea trout, and the silver king tarpon.
There are several reptile displays, including one of my favorites, these turtles. Many of these turtles you will see in the retention ponds and natural wetlands around the villages. You will also see land-based gopher tortoises in the villages, unfortunately sometimes crossing the road, so watch out for them.
The park also has a reptile house. Florida is home to 50 species of snakes, to include 6 poisonous varieties. Fortunately, only 4 varieties make Central Florida their home, to include this guy, the cottonmouth or water moccasin. Living in the villages, you will see snakes. I have probably seen a half dozen in the past year. Most have been on the golf course, but I have had one in my yard, and just this morning one crossed my path while riding my bike. All sightings have been of the non-poisonous type.
There is a Discovery House which features displays on the history of the park. The park has been a tourist attraction since the early 1900s, when trains stopped to let passengers off to enjoy the spring. The site was purchased in the 1940s and operated as an attraction. In 1964, a development company bought the attraction and turned it into an animal park, with emphasis on training exotic animals for television shows and the movies. In 1989, the former attraction officially became a Florida state park. The state began widespread improvements throughout the property as the emphasis changed from entertainment and exotic animals to a focus on environmental education and Florida's native wildlife.
The park has some really nice boardwalk trails and bridges that skirt the head spring and the Homosassa River. You will see some families out enjoying the day on their boats, kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards. Now, there is an abundance of bird life in the park, and it is sometimes hard to determine who are the park residents and who has flown in for a free meal. Many of the birds you will recognize from the villages, such as the herons, egrets, ibis, even the vultures. However, we do not get flamingos in the villages, except maybe of the plastic kind. We did see wild turkey during our last bike ride in the St. Catherine neighborhood, and we do see bald eagles in the villages, and there's nothing better than a picture of these two national symbols side by side. There's an interesting couple, two endangered whooping cranes. One cannot fly due to injury, and the other can fly but stays in the park as a committed companion to the other crane.
Now, Lou the hippopotamus is obviously not native to Florida, but he is a Florida citizen. Lou was brought to Homosassa Springs in the 1960s to join the Ivan Tours Animal Actors. After nearly 2 decades of starring in movies and television specials, Lou suddenly faced eviction when in 1989 the Florida Park Service took over the park and planned to move non-native species out of the state, which included Lou. But Lou had become such a beloved member of the Homosassa community that a petition to keep Lou in the park was created and sent to Lawton Chiles, Florida's governor at the time. Governor Chiles agreed and actually made Lou an honorary Florida citizen. And because he's a citizen, that's how he's allowed to stay in a Florida state park as a non-native animal. Now, this 6,000-pound citizen does have a habit of flinging dung, so watch the splatter zone. He even has his own Facebook page.
Moving on to some of Florida's native animals, meet gray fox and red fox. We have 2 executive golf courses in the villages named after these guys. You'll also see in the villages these Sherman fox squirrels. While they are a protected species in Florida, I see a number of them around the Hog-Eye Path in the village of Marsh Bend. Last we end with Yuma, the Florida panther. Now, if you see one of these around the villages, that would be a special treat, as their habitat range is further south in Florida. You are more likely to see a picture of them on a license plate, as they are as popular as the manatees. Unfortunately for us, we did not get to see Yuma's ferocious look, as he was settled in for an afternoon siesta. So it was now time for lunch, and I had heard of a gem of a place for seafood just 6 miles up the road in Crystal River. When I went on my latest trip with the Villages Saltwater Fishing Club, one of the members asked the boat captains where they go for good seafood, and both replied, the Seafood Cellar and Cafe. I also looked it up on TripAdvisor, and it was listed as the number 2 of 72 restaurants in Crystal River, so that was endorsement enough for me. Now, it is not much to look at from the outside being in a strip mall, but the inside ambiance is nice, and it's not a big place, so it does get busy and a wait can be expected. However, ours was only about 5 minutes. The owners are from Louisiana, so it is mostly locally sourced seafood with a Cajun twist. Grouper, snapper, and shrimp from the Gulf, also little neck clams from just up the road in Cedar Key, and this day it was $5 off clams, which meant 50 clams for $10. And that's a deal. They do bring in fresh crayfish from Louisiana when in season, so that is special. They have a website with a complete menu that I will put in the video description box. So Jennifer and I split the Cellar shrimp, jambalaya, and shrimp po' boy, which all of it was very good. So this restaurant topped off our day in the Homosassa Crystal River area, and we would certainly recommend both the Wildlife Park and the Seafood Cellar if you get over to that part of the coast. So that's it for this video, and we're going to see you on the next one.